Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday. That means it's time for the WWE Raw Wrestling Inc. after show. And have we got a show for you? We've got Akira Tozawa training the next champions. We've got Gunther and Bronson Reed just slapping the heck out of each other. And we have new tag team champions. But before we get into all of that, allow me to introduce the crew. I'm Jack Farmer, being joined by Jimmy Korderas and Mr. Fashion himself, Justin LaBar. Tell us a bit about your star-studded weekend.
I was definitely I was like, I don't need to be here. They don't need me here, you know. And when I walk into the backstage area where they take me to the backstage area. I mean, first off, the event was top notch, absolutely incredible. David Allen Fashion Show. I walked in the first one in 2016, which was no amateur hour. This one was just 10 times bigger stage, incredible production crew. I mean, cues of where to go, and I knew there's some surprises, and I get escorted to where I need to go backstage, and then all of a sudden there's Wiz Khalifa just sitting there doing what Wiz Khalifa does, and I'm like, oh my, I'm like this, like I'm just, what am I doing here? But it was a great time, a hell of a time. I got to talk to Kayla Braxton, WWE's Kayla Braxton, who I never met before. Very nice individual to talk to. She was great. Got to see Danielle Monet, the former Summer Rae. Haven't seen her in years since she was with WWE. She's a sweetheart. Great to catch up with her. Just a hell of a list. I could go on and name drop. Again, they did not need me there. I was very honored to be there. So
now the question is, was Wiz wearing black and yellow?
He was no, he was not.
Oh man, that sounds awesome. I mean, very cool to hear you're hobnobbing it up with all of the stars. And look, Justin, I'll do it for you. I think they needed you there. They needed someone like you to ground it with someone who can really pull off a suit and not just lean on their star power.
Yeah. I mean, it was a brand new custom suit. It was the best I've looked in a while.
Wow.
Well, Jimmy, how's your fantasy football team doing?
You know what? I didn't do a fantasy league this year. It just didn't happen. I can't give you a good reason why it didn't. Wish I could come up with a good story to say why, but it just didn't happen this year.
That's a long way to get to saying that my team's doing better than yours. We got another big win, baby.
Don't look at my team. They were in England and didn't do too well.
It's well, I had one of those weeks where I had it wrapped up Sunday night and I still had two players that hadn't even gone yet. So great day.
Same.
Great week.
I went into tonight's Monday Night Football. My players were all done. My opponent still had Dak Prescott to play. And I had done so well yesterday that I already had a 90% chance of winning. So unless Dak was going to walk on water, which he ain't, it's all me. 4-2, baby.
Do you get that fear sometimes where you still have that like one player left and you're winning, but you're like, what if they run backwards and just destroy my team somehow? What if they do something that causes me to lose the game? But was not the case. We got some big, by the way, a lot of folks here in the chat. Good to see that I haven't seen before or haven't seen in a long time. So good to see you. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's talk a little bit about the big news that's been going around. Dave Meltzer is saying that Vince McMahon's power in WWE is, quote, clearly marginalized, saying it was recently reported that Vince McMahon is no longer in charge of WWE's creative process, nor will he be contributing to this division anytime soon. What's more, the decision was made by Ari Emanuel, the CEO of Endeavor. On the latest edition of Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer noted that it shows McMahon's power in WWE is limited now that the company has merged with UFC to form TKO Group Holdings, saying, quote, McMahon was the guy making all the decisions, and now Vince was, in fact, overruled, even though when he merged the company, he was told this would not happen. It did happen. It's a really interesting thing. And that statement, when Ari Emanuel was talking about the reasons the stock is down, and he mentioned Vince's name, it is very interesting. I think what is going to happen, but Vince's power clearly marginalized. There's no way around that. Justin, of course, here in the wrestling world, hearing anyone overrule Vince McMahon just feels weird. But maybe I'm watching too much Succession. I feel like this is just how it goes in these big power situations.
Yeah, well, first off, I think it's important to identify the context of what Ari said, and I went to actually to see it and hear it for myself. When he mentioned about the stock being down and he mentioned Vince's name, some people have interpreted the quote as like Vince like in bad PR or something like that. What he was actually saying, and then he stopped himself short of saying it, was he was basically alluding to that Vince has some stock that he stopped short of saying selling, but he was basically but if you listen to it, it basically sounds like Vince has a large portion of shares that he's going to maybe cash in on and sell, which oftentimes happens if somebody is looking to finally, get their payout and maybe take a little step back or something. So he stopped short of saying Vince is going to sell. Almost like he called himself like, oh, I don't know if I should be breaking that news, but it is still important because that then would kind of make you start to believe that, like, okay, if Vince is cashing in a little bit, I know he's in better shape than anybody else on this planet of his age, but if he is starting to cash in a little bit, and we can see that Triple H has got more, his plan is being executed. We hear the morale and from those there that it is Triple H that's there, and it is Triple H that's given the day-to-day marching orders. So it does kind of all point towards that, whether by Vince's choosing or by the new group as a whole's decision, that it does seem like Vince he's never going to be completely pushed aside, but it does feel like that there is a different direction. Vince is not the sole final say anymore. And so look, and it makes sense. If you're seeing good production and you're seeing all these, and I mean production meaning results, if you're seeing good results, which WWE is with all their business right now in terms of how their programming is going, if you're seeing and hearing that people's morale is up, and oh, by the way, if you're seeing that Triple H, who's 30 years younger than Vince, who, you would want to go in that direction and say, look, we're gonna, if we're gonna empower somebody like Triple H and give him this title, we have to let him do his job. We can't, and that's I've been learning more and more about this Ari Emanuel guy, and from what I'm learning from people about his past business practices, is he's very much all about, if you have the job title, you do the job, and there needs to be a clear pecking order, and everybody needs to know that you do the job. We can't have somebody behind closed doors doing puppet strings. So it's a crazy conversation to have, and I'd love to hear Jimmy, because Jimmy worked there under Vince, but it does feel like it is a new day. Yes, it is.
Yeah, Jimmy, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this situation with Vince McMahon. Again, maybe I've watched too much Succession, but I can't get this visual in my head that this is just Vince finding his time, like a lion in the bushes, just waiting for his chance to take over the whole thing. I'm never counting out Vince McMahon, Jimmy, but what are your thoughts on this whole situation? The idea that maybe Vince isn't part of what we see on TV anymore.
No, well, it's very interesting that, trying to figure this whole thing out with Vince and where he's going and what's the direction, because knowing the Vince McMahon that I knew when I worked there and the years after when I left, here's a guy who liked to be in control of his product. He wanted to be the voice of the direction they were going, kind of sometimes he would sit back and let others take the lead, but he would always be in control. Like Justin said, I don't want to say puppet strings entirely, but you know what I mean? He ran the show. Let's put it that way. And he also had this aura about him where, I can understand some talents being a little bit intimidated, and like you said, Justin, a guy for his age looking great. I can't wait to see what Billy Gunn looks like when he gets to Vince's age, but that's the only guy I could think of. Sorry, went off a little on a tangent there, but it's very interesting. Maybe this is Vince thinking, maybe it is time for me to take a step back and let others take the reign and only interject myself when needed. Because like you said, Justin, the business is, from a business perspective, they're doing well. They're making money. They're making good money right now. And, these new television deals and everything's in the works. Let Vince work behind the scenes on that sort of stuff and do the business aspect. Let others run the in front of camera stuff. And when need be, I'm sure Vince will make his voice known.
Yeah. And it's, we got a super chat, by the way, already about this from Sadzilla saying, Vince getting worked after 100 years of working everyone else is so satisfying. Ari, the new big baby face, push him. Justin, what you said about everyone doing their own jobs and things like that, I think about when you take when you get out of the idea of the wrestling side of it, the whole idea of everyone just do their job makes so much sense, in the sense that from Ari's standpoint, he's probably looking at this like, if this was the movie industry, I wouldn't have the CEO of Paramount worrying about what a script says. I would be having the CEO of Paramount doing bigger things. Like, let the writer worry about the script. That's their job. And when you think of it that way, it feels like, yeah, no duh, Vince shouldn't be involved in creative. That seems so, I don't want to say below him, but kind of like he's got bigger things to worry about.
Well, that I think it's a great analogy you make about the studio, and also I think, again, if you have a fresh set of eyes, like like the guys like Ari and these guys from Endeavor that are coming in, they have this fresh set of eyes, and it's like, well, yes, Vince, you've obviously you've took this industry to places that never could have been dreamed of, but then you also go, okay, why is an 80-year-old going to be in charge of what's going to be topical to an audience that we're trying to aim for that is decades young, so I do think when you have somebody fresh set of eyes coming in, that's not a rocket science. We've all, I think, all said that at some point or another in the last 10 years, but when you have a fresh set of eyes and you have a fresh set of eyes that have power, like Ari Emanuel does, to enact that. And I think, again, too, like, and that super chat comment, it's too early to say if Vince got worked. I understand what that comment meant, meaning like, Ari sells like this big, great thing is happening in WWE, Vince make a whole lot of money and then turn around and pushing Vince aside and giving the keys fully to Triple H. It's way too early to tell if that's how this is going to ultimately transpire. History, we'll talk about that in a year. We'll see. But I'll just say this. We can't really say Vince got worked. Vince still made a lot of money off of this. So I don't think anybody can be classified as being, if that's getting worked, I'll do the job all damn day. Like that's. So I think let's keep that perspective. Okay.
Yeah. Sign me up for that work, because I will take that any day of the week.
What did the Job Squad used to say? Pin me, pay me.
Yes. Pay me 100%. Like I said, I still think that Vince is going to find a way. I never count out Vince. I can't do it. Just can't count him out. It'll never happen. He'll have a funeral and I will like see his gravestone and I'll still be like, he's not done yet. Something's brewing. Well, we got to get to the show. Let's talk about this pro wrestling thing. But before we do, as always, if you are watching, please like, comment, share, subscribe, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Copy the link and send it to your friends on social media. If you're a lurker, as always, shout out to all the lurkers just hanging out. Or if you're in the chat, I want to give you a shout out. Sadzilla, Blue Chew, Bernie DC, Max Feldman, Dream Realm. We got George. We've got Official Rebellious. Haven't seen you before. Good to see you, Official. Tox Kazim, MDB 999, Ethan Cruz. I saw Issa back there a second ago, but Montez, Maria, David, everyone else. Thank you guys so much. Tori the Lurker, Bear Hudson, Dylan Matthews. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about the show. We start things off. By the way, I forgot to mention it's the season premiere. If they didn't drive that home throughout the show, and the third time that Michael Cole has missed a show. I feel like that was bigger. I feel like that was the biggest news of the week, is that Michael Cole wasn't here. But Sami Zayn comes out and says he feels lonely without Kevin Owens on Raw. Says he's a world champion caliber wrestler and he's sick of Judgment Day. So here comes the Judgment Day. They want to get rid of Sami permanently. And before they do, Jey Uso comes out with some chairs and chases them off. Later, Sami tells Jey that he lost his friend, his title, and it's all because of Jey. Jey says it is what it is. And he's sorry. And then Sami says he's sorry about being mean. And so they yeet and they're happy and they're all good now. Jimmy, we're seeing this kind of new side of Sami where he's definitely alluding to the fact that he may be the next guy to be a world champion.
Yeah, you got that feeling. And obviously, when you talk about ticking boxes, as I like to talk about, he does tick all those boxes. He's hitting all the right notes. And the biggest box that he's ticking is the audience is into him. He's maybe not LA Knight like into him, but they are really backing Sami Zayn and they're behind him. So that they're your biggest barometer, so to speak. Whether this is leading to a world championship in the future, I don't know, but he is definitely working his way up the card as a top caliber babyface because the crowd is really, really into him right now.
Yeah, Justin, I was watching this the whole time thinking about how Judgment Day said they want to get rid of Sami Zayn permanently. I don't know why they didn't just ask Cody to get him traded.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Little front office maneuvering. That's all it takes.
I mean, it seems pretty easy. I don't know. Just ask for it. You can get whatever you want.
Just call in some favors.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about the start of the season?
Well, I despise season premiere and something that has no off season. But no, you know what? I have to say this first off. I would have never believed anybody if they would have told me 5 years, 7 years ago that Sami Zayn is going to be of enough status to them that he can be the first person we send out on a season premiere show, a show that they do try to hype up a little bit more, and much less not just send him out there, but send him out there on the mic to cut a promo, not even to do a match, but to be on the mic. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy who, and I eat my words and say, when he first, especially when he first, came over to Raw and SmackDown, like, here's a guy who he's most famous for previously wrestling under a mask and being called generic. Like, right. I just saw him as a very bland guy who was another guy who could work in the ring, do some stuff. But he, huge credit to him and what he's been able to do to make Sami Zayn a personality, to make it somebody who, when you hear the music, and can come out and give me an interesting promo that has emotion and has investment into it. So, just want to give my shout out to Sami Zayn. But yeah, overall, I thought this was good. I mean, we are, and there is advancement tonight. There is a lot of, it is starting to get a little more repetitive with the dance that we're doing here of a rotation of characters around Judgment Day. But they did at least deliver on how they finished tonight. It got interesting.
Yeah, I was actually pretty excited about, I don't know, excited is the word, but I kind of like how they had the tension between Sami and Jay, and then Sami said, never mind, I'm just going to squash it. Because I was kind of thinking, are we going to do this tension between Sami and Jay again? I feel like this is it's fun, but it also is a little bit like, okay, we've seen this for 2 years now. Are they friends? Are they not friends? Are they friends? Are they not friends? So I'm kind of glad they said, never. We're going to squash that, move on, next thing. Or at least so it appears.
Yes.
We get a match, and it's a heck of a match, by the way. I should say, by the way, as far as the new season thing, it kind of bugs me too. I wish they'd at least do some things to change the show up. Like if they were going to do it, a new set, a new song, a new something, just to make it feel like it's different.
One thing I wish they would change up, and I know I may have mentioned this before, is yes, I understand you want to entice your audience to come back after a commercial break, and by introing the first person of the match, and then they come back from commercial and they go to a backstage segment or a promo segment or something else or a video package before they introduce the second contestant. You know what? When you come back from break, go to the match. You can put that stuff on in between matches. I'm sorry. It just, I don't understand the logic behind it. Having someone sitting in the ring waiting for the other person to come in, and it takes them 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, that kills me. And it's also weird if you're there live and you see the poor person just kind of walking around in the ring trying to kill time. Yeah. But speaking, you're alluding to, of course, Ricochet, who came out first, and then we got a bunch of stuff that we'll talk about in a second. We get a pre-tape promo from Shinsuke, then we get the match, and it is a big one. We got fighting through the gorilla station, flipping off of guardrails, but it's Shinsuke who gets the win. Jimmy, I would love to ask you this kind of question here. Ricochet, he didn't get the win, but do you think he did enough in this one to move himself in a positive direction going forward?
I wish I could say yes, but I think it's a step sideways for me. I don't think we always talk about getting over without going over. Ricochet, we've been waiting for this forever. He just doesn't go over enough. Eventually, getting over without going over runs its course. And Ricochet needs to go over at some point to continue that momentum. It just feels like he's stagnant right now, at least for me anyways.
Yeah, this was, Justin, it was the classic example of a match that I think as a wrestling fan, this is great. I mean, they're fighting all over the place. They're jumping off of things, hard hitting. Two guys that wrestling fans seem to be really behind. It ends, and I do just kind of leave myself wondering, well, what's next? I don't know what's next for either of them at this point.
I do wonder what is next, because Nakamura gets a win, but he just failed several attempts at winning the world title from Seth Rollins. So where do you go at this point? He beat Ricochet, but everybody beats Ricochet. Look, Ricochet, first off, the compliment I'll give him, I this past weekend I was on TV. I watched Rush Hour for the first time in years. And all the great things that I watched Jackie Chan do and probably took 10 different takes with the great stunt work. Ricochet looks like he can do it in one take with the way that he runs up the video screen wall and flips, the way they got every, I mean, no Hollywood here. You got one take to get it right and make it look good. So I'll give that. Ricochet is their ultimate stuntman. That said, that's what he is. He is an amazing must-see stuntman, but I think we saw it and we heard it when he had the Logan Paul feud. He just does not talk you. He's somebody, again, you want to see what he can do live. I think when you buy a ticket, you are interested in seeing him do a shooting star press or what's he going to do it off of. And that's his appeal and that's his attraction. And I think that WWE's kind of accepted that that's his ceiling. That's where he's at right now. He's a guy we'll put out there. We'll let him do some crazy stunts and he's going to be a great gift and everything like that. But, kind of what Jimmy's saying, I don't think that they plan for anything more for him. I don't think they ever plan and see him trying to actually be somebody who can get on the mic and sell a premium live event match. I think it is all, I think they kind of tested that with Logan Paul. Here we're going to try to put this viral match. And I think as we all discussed, on this podcast months ago when we were building to that, Logan Paul verbally outshined him, and I think that's just kind of that's where Ricochet is. It's a great career. I'm sure he's getting paid well. Yeah, you can live that WWE career and be a mid-carder who can, steal the show with some viral moments. But I don't think that he's ever going to be a guy that they're building any kind of show or major story around. Yeah,
I'm struggling to think of the last big win he had. I think maybe when he was doing that Ricochet, Shinsuke, Bronson, Reed kind of triangle they were doing, but those were all very like people were getting involved and no one got really clean wins there. I can't really remember his last clean win that felt like a big win. I think you'd probably have to go back to when he was teaming with Braun Strowman, if I'm not mistaken, that he had a big win, which is a shame because I think he's likable, but you guys are right. I just don't know. I don't see him winning any championship anytime soon. And if you're not going to win a championship, it becomes really hard to emotionally invest in you.
And I always look with Ricochet too. I enjoyed him. And Jack, I went out to your neck of the woods and saw him when Lucha Underground was still a thing. And they had him under a mask. He was Prince Puma. And what I loved was they created such a backstory of this Prince Puma character. I think even Conan was involved, if I remember right. And it's like I almost wish now in hindsight that WWE would have done something like that. I understand they don't like to put guys like him under a mask because they like facial expressions. Rey Mysterio is an exception to the rule. They like guys being able to show their face and be marketable. So I get that they wouldn't want to have him do something like that. But I still think that now looking at how things are and where he is positioned, I wish that we could have created another a different character for him to portray and have more backstory, and that might have complemented the high flying stuff even more rather than him just being a high flying stuntman.
Something that friend of the show Dylan Matthews has said a few times in the chat is that it's time to turn Ricochet heel. Justin, do you think that that's the right move, or do you think that he's just someone who's too lovable?
I think his style doesn't lend it to being a heel. A lot of the moves he does are pop eliciting moves, and I think you'd have to tone that. I think if he's working in the ring with the babyface would almost be like, all right, tone that down a little bit. You're making this harder, and then you try to tell me what kind of actions or words is he going to do that's going to make me. I think it's going to come off even more of a struggle. I think it's going to come off as him playing bad guy wrestler.
Yeah, I could see
is
that.
How I would think. Maybe again, I just ate my words a few minutes ago about what I said about Sami Zayn. But maybe he surprised me. But the Ricochet that I've seen, I think he'd be trying to play wrestler.
In my opinion, I agree with you, Justin. But I think it can work if he were to, let's say, obviously we haven't seen him speak in a heel sort of fashion, so we don't know if that's there or if he has it in him. Maybe he does. But like you said, his appeal to the crowd is and to the audience is those moves, those incredible moves that he does. What if he's got someone set up for one? Looks like he's about to perform it and goes, nah, and just does a simple stomp or a punch and kick and just refuses to do the incredible stuff that people want to see from him. I don't know if that's maybe a direction to go.
an eye gouge from the top rope. Just jumps down with his finger and pokes him in the eye.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff, honestly, that I would expect if AEW ever wants to turn Orange Cassidy heel. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. Except he would just like fall off the top rope with his fingers out. Well, yeah. So great match, but yeah, and as we said, I mean, we'll move on. But Shinsuke, yeah, he had his shot at the big one, so I don't know what his next thing is, but we'll have to see. We got
well, we did get popcorn to the eyes in this match, so that's I think the first time for me.
Well, someone who has no problem finding what she's going to do next, Chelsea Green talks trash to half the women's division before Tegan Nox talks some trash back. Eventually, we get Natalya versus Piper Niven. Comes down to Natalya running into Chelsea Green, which allows Piper to get the win. Afterwards, they beat up Natalya until Tegan Nox makes the save. Jimmy, this feels like it's pretty much paint by numbers. We're creating a new tag team to challenge for the titles.
Yeah, that's how it feels. And again, using Natty to do what she does best is get some of the women over. And we saw a lot of women tonight on the show. It is a deep roster. So, this is just, again, setting up a tag match for the future. And yeah, it was okay. I don't have an issue with it. It just didn't stand out and wow me. Let's put it that way.
Justin, this was, of course, the story I think here is, and we talked about it at the top, Triple H is obviously putting things together creatively, and we see Tegan Nox, who I believe is someone Triple H is a big fan of. This whole thing felt like it was setting up Tegan Nox to lend her credibility. Does it feel like she's earned that credibility here?
I don't think she's earned it yet, but I agree that a lot of this project is around getting her. It's trying to build up some momentum, some consistency. Obviously, she's as they outlined in the videos in the past. She's had a lot of stop and goes in her career with WWE and NXT. So that's a lot of this all feels like that she's the result of what they're trying to do. She's the project that they're trying to build up as they build this division. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up because I just I reacted to it live, and then I saw the internet, as the internet's going to do, as Natty comes out and she does the Bret Hart, give the glasses shtick to the young female fan. The handsy young boy who was oozy. Just I don't know. I had to bring it up because I saw I opened up the Twitter app, and it just like that's all anybody could focus on. And good on Natalya for being a professional and she just kind of shrugged it off in the moment.
Yeah,
but
that's how she's been doing it for a while. Is she's kept the show moving on. But yeah, this was one of those. One of the funny things, I don't know. I thought it was funny when Chelsea Green's talking to these people backstage. I got a kick out of Nikki Cross looking so like dark and brooding, while everyone else is like, it's like Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. They're the party girls. You got Tegan Nox with her colorful hair, and then in the back is Nikki Cross, like in all black, like covered. I don't know why I seem to like all the people who are in the background of videos. She popped me there. It feels like it's funny how many talented people they have in the women's division on Raw, where you've got all of these characters that are just for a backstage segment. And we have we'll talk about it, but we have a whole bunch of people in the title picture as well. It's crazy. But we move on and we get to Seth Rollins coming to the ring. And Seth Rollins, he explains what happened last week and then invites Drew McIntyre, who comes out and says, "I want you at 100%, but I'm not babysitting you." Seth points out that Drew is chatting up Rhea, and Drew downplays it. So Seth Rollins says, "Shut up about the bloodline." Drew digs into the history of how he got where he is and what's happened and why this match is so important for both of them. Later, Drew says that he talks to Sammy. He says he was cool with Sammy, but he's upset that he forgave Jey Uso, and now they're going to have a fight next week. Justin, these two segments, I thought were really, really good by Drew McIntyre. Some of my favorite stuff he did is particularly just talking about the history of the pandemic and how all these moments he's always dreamed of have kind of been robbed from him. Justin, talk to me a little bit about this promo.
Yeah, I liked the promo. I did. It had a lot of, felt like it had like a lot of honesty into it. It was very authentic feeling. So I thought it was a great promo for what to me again is more of the same. Where I don't believe that Drew is going to walk away as champion and beat Seth. It's the same thing I kind of felt with Seth and Nakamura. I can't articulate why. I don't know if it's because they already kind of went there. I don't know. But I still like the promo. I like the attempt. And I like the wrinkle with the stuff with he and Rhea. I did notice it last week when they were in the background. So I'm glad they brought that Easter egg to the forefront this week. Because, again, it gets my mind swirling of, like, what could happen. Is Rhea saying, look, you either beat Seth, or if you don't, you get your ass back up and you kick the shit out of him. And so that way Damian can come in and cash in. Like, again, I like the creative possibilities that this could be. I like the seed, and that when we water it, what could come from it. So I'm intrigued in the match at Crown Jewel because of all the extracurriculars that could go down. I don't think Drew's going to be going into Survivor Series as the champion on Monday night, but that doesn't mean you still don't put your best foot forward and try to give me the best Drew McIntyre presentation as you can. And again, back to what you said, I thought the promo was that tonight.
Yeah, Jimmy, he continued. I thought great promo. And of course, with Sami Zayn, again, leaning into that. You don't know what it's like to be a champion. You've never been there. Kind of foreshadowing. And we got a super chat I want to get to from Sadzilla, who says, I can actually see Sammy doing the fighting champion thing way better than Seth. I always fast forward Seth. Ugh, I'm so done with the song and him. Sadzilla, Seth clearly being the reason why Sadzilla is Sadzilla. But thank you for the super chat, Sad. But your thoughts on that side of things, Jimmy?
No, I think, he's in the minority. Let's put it that way, because Seth is hugely over right now. And one of the things is that the crowd loves to chant his music, and going to this situation with him and Drew, this is maybe the best I've heard Drew on the microphone since he's been in the WWE. This is like you said, Justin, it sounded authentic. It sounded real. It felt like he's giving a little peek behind the curtain kind of thing. Little things he said during the promo, like this is your 53rd what did he
reinvent yourself for the 53rd time?
The third time is something like that. Yeah. So, just little things like that, to make people go, ooh, he went there. I can't believe he went there. It almost feels like he's supposed to be the heel in this, but at the same time, you're kind of going, how could he be the heel when he's speaking the truth? That's how it feels here. So it's interesting where this is leading. And also with the Sammy situation too, and the little Easter egg, like you said, there's a lot of possibilities here. There's seeds have been planted. Let's see which ones get watered.
It was. I feel like this Drew thing. It reminds me of another wrestling pundit. I'll say Simon Miller had this bit where he would always talk about people don't talk like that, and he would show clips of pro wrestling promos and things people say that we just assume is okay in pro wrestling promos, but he would make fun of how that's not how people actually talk. And I think Drew, when he was his super good guy, would do a lot of that. He would say things that normal people don't really say, where this promo was very much how people talk. And it really reiterated how, to me, like, I was like, yeah, I finally got to beat Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania. No one was there. I finally got to have a title match in front of my home crowd, and it was stolen from me and all this other stuff. And you really started to realize just how, like, yeah, he has had his time stolen. And Seth Rollins is kind of in trouble if he loses. It feel like that's exactly what makes me want to feel like I have to see this matchup, because now I'm feeling like neither of them can lose. And it's just a really good segment, couple segments there. We got Ludwig Kaiser versus Johnny Gargano. And so Gargano comes out in a Ciampa shirt, who is not there tonight because of an injury. Story of the match is Kaiser gets upset with Vinci, so Vinci pokes Gargano in the eye, and that allows Kaiser to get the win. Next week, though, it's going to be Gio facing Gargano, and Gunther says Gargano better not be walking around backstage after the match. Justin, what I loved about this little bit here is dissension in groups is pretty common in WWE, but this one, I feel like they're not beating us over the head with it, but they do just enough to remind us that there is trouble in paradise at Imperium.
Yeah, they've been slow playing it. It's been, as we talked about, it's been one that they kind of keep revisiting every now and again. You know, again, another seed to water kind of analogy of when they want to go back to it. You know, I like what they did tonight. You know, so yeah, Ciampa's not there because he's not medically cleared because of the attack that Imperium put on one the week before. So it's 2-on-1. Absolutely, Kaiser should get the victory in this situation. He does because he has Vinci on the outside. And so I like the fact that Vinci is kind of the, Vinci with the little eye poke and cheat. It's because of Vinci that Kaiser pulls it off, or at least in part. But yet Vinci still has the pressure on him to also then do the same quality performance and beat Gargano next week. And if I'm going to fantasy book, if I have the pencil, I'm going to guess Ciampa will be around next week. He will be cleared, so he will be present. So it will not be a 2-on-1 advantage. It'll be equal playing field. And Vinci's probably going to come up short, because he's not going to have the same luxury that Kaiser had the week prior, and it's going to create more strife. So I like this because this is good. I like the fact that you have the empire that Gunther is running, and he is still untouchable, which we'll get to in a minute, but yet the foundation underneath of him is starting to crumble.
Jimmy, the thing about Kaiser, I'm such a huge Kaiser fan, and he just had a picture-perfect moment right at the very end of all this, where he looks at Vinci and just the look on his face, he's like, no pressure. Like, it was so perfect. It was like, because he messed up too, but he totally just dumped it all on Vinci at the end. It was just chef's kiss. It was perfect.
It was perfect. And that's the beauty of it. Sometimes the simplest little things work, but they add layers. And that's what this is all about. When you tell a story, adding layers that make sense. And when you look back at this whole thing, like you said, they're slow playing it. And that's the good thing about it. They're not rushing into this thing. And the fact that, Gunther may have an issue with Vinci, and we'll see what happens, next week. And again, it's making you want to tune in next week to see where this leads. And that's the main goal.
And can we all agree that the name, actions, and demeanor and look of Ludwig Kaiser just casts itself perfectly as like one of the guys that John McClane would just kill off in Die Hard?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. He is so perfect villain. He is. Yeah. Hollywood couldn't cast a better villain than Ludwig Kaiser. Just everything about him is just, it's great. Like, if this were 15 years ago, Vince would have him in the Marine. John Cena would have been shooting him dead in the Marine. Yes. Because he's one of those guys. I love characters where if someone never watched wrestling and he walks out and says nothing, you're like, oh yeah, he's a bad guy. I don't like him. It's great. So we got Becky Lynch walking around with the NXT title, and Indy Hartwell wants a shot at the title. So Becky Lynch says she's going to make it happen. She also runs into Rhea Ripley, who has a brief stare down moment. Later, Becky makes it official with Pierce, the match with Hartwell. So Xia Li says she wants a shot at the title. And Becky Lynch again says, just name a time and place. And so Xia says, okay, I will eventually. But then we get the stare down between Becky Lynch and Jade Cargill. Justin, a couple of stare downs happened with Becky Lynch. Which one was the biggest?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, from current context to the audience, I think the mass audience is probably going to say, you would say the Rhea, because of who Rhea is and who Becky is. Mm-hmm. But I think for those, who are more in the know and who know who Jade Cargill is, that sends off all kinds of So I mean, it's a great question. It's a great problem to have. Mm-hmm. Which feud do we go to first? Which one do we want to cash into the bank first? It's a great problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is when you're at the bank and you got two big checks, you got to hand it over to the teller. Mm-hmm. Which one do I cash out? That is good.
It's Christmas time. Grandma on this side of the family sent you this check. Grandma, oh, which one do I want to cash for? I mean, it's a great problem to have.
No, look at us talk about tellers and banks. So many of our viewers and listeners are probably like, "What's a teller?
What?
Who does that? What's a check? What's
Oh my
I
goodness.
guarantee half of our audience has no idea how to fill out a deposit slip.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
But Jimmy, this was, I mean, Becky Lynch is just one of the things that makes her great is that you see her interact with a few people here, and you're already fantasy booking WrestleMania main events. Like that's crazy to me. I mean, because other times most people, and I know I'm critical of Becky Lynch a lot on this program, but I gotta say it. Whenever she's face to face with someone, like that's a WrestleMania main event.
No, it feels like it, especially now. You talk about Jade and the way they've presented her and brought her in, making her feel like a big deal. So the audience who are not aware of who she is go, oh, this is someone I think I should be paying attention to. And also the other ladies, this division right now is absolutely stacked. So they're, like we said, this is a good problem to have. Who do we pair up Becky with next? But you have that stare down with Rhea as well. And that's a match that you could put off for a little while, especially if there's talk about maybe unifying the championships again. I don't know if that's something they want to do, but if it is in their future down the line, maybe that's something they could revisit. But again, good problem to have.
You know, Secular Belt, it's not super chat, but I'm going to call it anyways because I like this idea here, saying 2 opposing Survivor Series teams should try to recruit Jade and maybe make that the story of which team can get Jade onto their side. I think that'd be an interesting.
Either the blue hand muffs or whatever that's called, or a red one.
It'll depend what goes better with the outfit.
I do like that because it's a situation. Obviously, it presents to the audience that Jade's important. If a crew of her peers are fighting to recruit her, so for the
GMs, the new GMs,
and the GMs, it's so to the audience that doesn't know who she is, and that there are more people that watch WWE than there are AEW. So that means there's a gap of people who don't know who Jade Cargill is. They keep seeing her pop up, so they're probably starting to get the idea of, oh, this is some big deal. But I like that thought, and then again, Jade, who, the thing that she needs the most is more reps. Putting her in her Survivor Series style match can protect her, so her first showing in the ring isn't all on her and her opponent. So I like that. I think that's and the Chicago crowd's going to know who she is, so they'll probably be reacting. So that's a good idea.
You know, if they do the War Games thing, both teams could think that they have her on her side, and then she's the last one to enter, and you don't really know until she starts attacking somebody. That could be a fun little thing there.
I would have said hold off and let her be somebody who enters the Rumble, but the fact that they immediately went to having her show up in all 3 brands, I don't think they can draw that out to the end of January. So I think back to that chat, I think you almost have to introduce her at Survivor Series because I think you might start to aggravate the audience if you keep having her appear each week, but she doesn't do anything at the Rumble. I think you might shoot yourself in the foot. So yeah, I think Survivor Series at this point probably is the timeline.
Like that Lacey Evans situation they had a while back where she would just walk out to the ring and then do nothing for a long time. But the women's division is crazy stacked on Raw. And in fact, we get a quick backstage segment with Judgment Day. They're talking about tension, and there's a little tension with Rhea handling business on her own for Judgment Day. But they dismiss that. We get Rhea Ripley versus Shayna Baszler, and it's a good one up until Nia Jax makes her way down to the ring, and everything gets thrown out as Raquel Rodriguez comes in, and Zoe Stark. The match gets thrown out, and the brawl continues until Zoe Stark is the last one standing. We later get a Miz interview that's interrupted by Nia Jax saying that she does the squashing on Raw, and then later Rhea Ripley, she wants order in the division, so she's getting a fatal 5-way at Crown Jewel. Jimmy, I think we talked about it last week. This is just this is a tough women's division. I mean, there's like the top 10 names are all just killers.
This is the most stacked it's been. You can argue ever, because even back in the Attitude Era, there were several ladies who can go, but Now, this one here is you've got what's the 5-way? Rhea, Shayna, Raquel, Starks, and Nia, I think is the 5-way, right?
Yeah.
Those are the 5. You can make a case for any one of them emerging from this match with the title belt. You can make an argument for any of them. And that's the beauty of this thing. It's not one of those matches where you go into it and you go, well, I don't see so-and-so winning the title here, or I don't see so-and-so winning the title. In this one, you say, well, I can see Rhea retaining because of this. I can see Shayna winning because of this, and go down the line. And that's the beauty of this thing. You can go in any direction and has people guessing. And that's what entices people to watch. Again, that all comes down to making people tune in to watch.
I mean, and all these people, that's not even counting the fact that I think technically Becky Lynch still counts. And I mean, you still have like Sonya Deville on the shelf. You still got Piper Niven. You've got Chelsea Green, who isn't a part of this. You've got, a lot of people who maybe aren't the killers, that win every time they're out there, like the 5 in this one, but still just a crazy division here. Justin, do you think the right call is a fatal 5-way, or should they have divvied this out a little bit to stretch it?
Well, and first off, by the way, all the names you just mentioned. Oh, by the way, and they have a pretty deep NXT women's roster that they're all chomping at the bit, ready for their chance. So, I don't know. It's a little much to the 5-way, but again, going back to pitches of Jade. The way that they did Nia's promos tonight. You could go into Survivor. You could go into a show like a Survivor Series, and Survivor Series is not all team matches. You could go into a thing where Nia's like, I'm here squashing everybody. I want competition. And Jade could answer there. And Nia is one of those heels who she's so universally disliked, both by fans who dislike the heel, and both by the smarter fans who get worked so easily. They all hate Nia Jax. They all think that she can't work. All this thing. So she's kind of like the Baron Corbin on the female side, where like it just gets heat so easily and manipulates easily. That again, if they want to introduce the Jade Cargill in the ring and tell people you need to be cheering Jade Cargill, Nia would be another one. Plus, Jade could actually physically, stand across from Nia and be a threat. So that's my long-term pitch. But to the 5-way, maybe a little bit much. Maybe you could get a little bit more out of it before going right to a 5-way. But I'll see what happens. I love the fact that they have this much depth. It's they really made the point of the whole women's revolution. I guess like 2018. They really kind of pushed to that, and they did an attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Now they truly have the depth in the roster, and not only the depth, not only having the bodies, and this goes to Triple H, but they don't just push whoever are the 2 champions on each brand. They have created other stories and other matches to make more than just 2 women and their 2 challengers important, and that's pretty key to this whole thing.
Yeah, and that all said too, everything we're talking about, we're not even talking about the SmackDown roster either, which has Bianca and Asuka and Charlotte and another Io Shirai and so many other incredibly talented individuals. So it's crazy. And what's great about it too is it not going back that far. Surprisingly, it's a world where it's not like this is the blonde one and this is the brunette one. You know what I mean? It's like they've all got very interesting characters and different personalities, and they stand out in different ways, and it's awesome.
And they're having matches in Saudi Arabia, breaking down cultural barrier. It's a crazy time, a crazy good time to be a female talent in WWE.
Yeah, in general, it's a good time to be a fan of WWE because the next thing we're about to go to, fellas, is the big one. Bronson Reed versus Gunther for the Intercontinental title. Justin, I threw this out on Twitter, and I'm going to stand by it. I said if Gunther can powerbomb Bronson Reed, he is the greatest wrestler of all time, bar none. So Gunther is the greatest wrestler of all time, bar none, right?
This was very entertaining. And think about this, this is a heel versus heel situation. And again, I can't wait to hear Jimmy's thoughts because he's been the third man in the ring for such classics. Heel versus heel is just to lay the match out of who's going to do what, and expecting the audience to react and not be confused and not be like they pulled this off. This was kind of like it was like they would slow build, boom, big explosion, disaster, build, boom, another big, like they just managed to make this like just a build after build after build of explosions. This was the hardest that Bronson Reed has had to work since coming to Raw, and he did great. I thought he did great. He had to work his ass off, but at the end of the day, Gunther wins, as he should still. But yeah, this was really well done. And again, a rare heel versus heel, but they had the audience invested by the time they got to the but by the time they went home on the end of the match.
Jimmy, I want just your overall thoughts of this. But I gotta say, if this was a audition for Gunther versus Brock Lesnar, Gunther versus another big, hard-hitting guy, I feel like this had to be a success, right? I mean, this was fantastic.
No, it was the match. There was nothing wrong with it, but it did what it was supposed to do. And Gunther, being the champion, and continuing that line, I think it was the right direction to go. Him facing Bronson, I don't think was the crowd was a little silent at first, but they came along. They got with the pack. They got with got into it, and everything was fine. It was. The one thing, it was the good falsies that got the crowd into the match. The crowd, those false finishes, people were like, "Oh my goodness, that was close." And at first they were a little quiet, but they got the crowd to be interested afterwards, and that was the best thing about it.
Quiet because the crowd didn't have a good guy to cheer for.
Right.
They were like, "Well, what do I want to see here?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. I got to give Bronson Reed credit. I think he did such a good job of being the bigger, stronger guy that looked and acted like the bigger, stronger guy, but also made it very clear that Gunther was causing a lot of physical damage to him throughout. Right. And Gunther, he's so good. I mean, everyone talks about the chops and how hard hitting he is, but man, I tell you, his selling is so good. And also the thing I love about him is he always looks like he's in a fight. He never has that, like, sometimes you see little glimpses of guys that you like, it looks like they take the gas off a little bit, or like, they don't feel like they're in danger. He feels like he is in a fight the entire time. It's really, really cool to see. Gunther's just incredible.
I will say this. We asked this earlier kind of about like Nakamura, and like, I don't know. I mean, there's a good night, successful night, earned your paycheck. I don't know, where do you go with Bronson Reed? Like, we've seen, like, they've reinvested in Bronson Reed. Like they've made us care about him and shown that like he's a guy who's got great size, but he can move like a guy of his size shouldn't. But okay, he just fell short of a very well advertised and promoted Intercontinental title match. Unless he's like going to be somebody who they like try to build back up and he tries to challenge Rollins. Like I do kind of wonder, like, where does he go? What do we do with Reed if he stays on Monday nights? But if you move him to Fridays, that's a show that's 1 hour less. That's a show that like the Bloodline can occupy 45 minutes of the show, and rightfully so. And it's like where, like, so I do wonder, like, where does Bronson Reed, what does he go from here?
Yeah, he's kind of, there's not really a lot of stuff for him, I guess, right now.
You know what I mean? And he doesn't strike, he's not a guy that like Judgment Day doesn't need an enforcer or mercenary. Imperium doesn't, like, I mean, like, I don't, like, you can't like latch him on with somebody. Like, I don't, like, unless the Miz is like, I've been so disrespected, I need a bodyguard. Right. But that usually doesn't end well because you end up just taking frontline bullets. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless he does a face turn and goes against Judgment Day, but I feel like you can't say that about everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's
yeah. So that is I'm curious to where he goes from here on at this point now.
Yeah. We move on and we get a backstage segment with Akira Tozawa helping the entire tag team division get ready to become championship level teams. And after a battle cry, both Alpha Academy and New Day confess that Akira Tozawa has the best hips in the biz. I feel like that's an accurate summary, right, Jimmy?
Yeah. I mean, what can you say more than that? At least they're giving them something. It was a little bit, more ha-ha than anything, but sometimes you need those little ha-ha moments.
Yeah. Justin, I don't know why. I feel like Akira Tozawa is featured just for me.
I think he is, because I'll tell you this: one of our loyal regular friends of the show, Bernie, right there, Bernie DC. Bernie actually reached out to me and messaged me and was like, "Do you think Jack Farmer would be Akira Tozawa as he appeared tonight?" And I was like, "Oh yes, he would do it for Halloween. Jack would totally do that for Halloween
with my little workout gear, going side to side.
He would totally do it. Totally.
I absolutely.
So you're on people's minds, and they see Akira Tozawa, they think Jack Farmer.
Every time he shows up, I'm like, yeah, my guy. One of these days, he's going to get a big win. I mean, he did beat The Miz fairly recently, but one of these days, he's going to get a big win, and I'm going to celebrate like I won the Super Bowl.
I can't. I hope he does something. Like, I hope he eliminates somebody monumental in the Rumble, so I can then like text you and like FaceTime you and see you in all your glory, or like I want to meet the dude so I can like convey your love and fandom for him. Like I feel that like it needs to, justice needs to be served in the sense of like you have been driving this bandwagon so earnestly, this bandwagon that's so light. So, I want you to get your just due.
This is all I want to happen is that in the Royal Rumble, the Undertaker comes back and then Akira Tozawa drop kicks him just like Maven and knocks him out of the ring.
Wow.
I'm not holding my breath for that one.
How about this? How about this? It's Royal Rumble. And we get interaction with Brock and Gunther. And Brock eliminates Gunther. That enrages Gunther to the point of then Gunther doesn't leave like he's supposed to. Gunther then gets up and starts as illegally, but he's doing. There's no disqualification of the Royal Rumble. Starts screwing Brock, pokes him in the eye, does something, whatever. Brock is now blinded. Brock is whatever. And here comes Tozawa, the next entry, and Tozawa drop kicks, and Brock's been eliminated. So now we fueled the Gunther Brock problem and my Mania match, but Tozawa eliminates a Brock Lesnar. Forever on his resume.
I will lose my mind. I will strip butt naked and run down the streets.
In
excitement.
Well, don't FaceTime me then. But the next morning, give me a call. We'll have coffee and we'll talk about it.
There you go.
I'll be running out there. Yeah, Akira is ready.
That's tremendous.
Well, transition.
There's no transition from that.
Moving along.
Jimmy, when was the last time you ran naked through the street?
We're going streaking through the quads.
I don't think I ever have, even as a child. But who knows?
Is KFC still open?
No. J.F.A. brother.
We're going streaking through the quads. So we get to the main event. Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes versus the Judgment Day. We've got Dom helping out the Judgment Day. Sami Zayn shows up to help Cody, but the real story here is that Jimmy Uso shows up and takes out Jey Uso, allowing Judgment Day to once again become the tag team champions. Jimmy, this is I had two thoughts here. Part of me is like, this is great. We're building towards Jimmy versus Jey. I think that prints money. On the other hand, I feel a little bit like we're kind of back to square one.
I like more the first thing you said. I want to try and think positive here. It's interesting because, to be honest with you, was I expecting it? Not really, but it felt like a bit of a surprise to me. You know, some will say, I expected somebody from Bloodline to come out and interfere here. This again, you talk about planting seeds. This is another good planting job. Let's put it that way. Makes you want to see brother versus brother down the line somewhere, and it's got to be at a major event. I saw somebody tweet something about, you see the, Jey versus Jimmy at WrestleMania. Can it wait till then? I don't know if it can. That's a long way away. Yeah. So you think about Survivor Series, here's the first one. Jimmy and the Bloodline versus, or Jimmy and his gang, so to speak, against Jay and his new friends. That maybe that's a way to go, but it makes you want to see what happens with the brothers.
Yeah, Justin. I mean, even Survivor Series feels like it's a long ways away for this one.
But I think they are going to attempt to get this to Mania. I think, first off, I mean, it was a good surprise way to end this. On the Judgment Day side of things, it looks like the Judgment Day is getting a little shaky, right? You know, Damien's kind of like, Rhea, what's all these phone calls? What are you doing? Like, you know, who's Rhea? Is she talking to Paul Heyman? Is she working out a deal with the Bloodline? Is that why Jimmy showed up tonight? Like, so there's that going on. And so just when you think the Bloodline, between that and the whole JD McDonough stuff, just when you think the Bloodline might be shaky, they get strong again and win some titles. So it's kind of like the last rise up before they might truly get brought down, right? So I like that aspect. I also didn't. I mean, Cody versus Jay, that wasn't something I wanted to see for months on end as them as champions. So I'm happy to kind of see them drop the titles. The Jay versus Jimmy, it's kind of like, okay, so you keep reminding us that they're on different sides of things. Like Jimmy said, maybe you get to Survivor Series, they're on opposite sides there. You can kind of get to Rumble probably pretty gracefully. You know, you can easily strategically place them at Rumble at odds with each other. One of them eliminates the other, whatever. And then you get to Mania. So, I mean, it could be done because there's enough other cast members all around this.
Mm-hmm.
And because it stretches over both Raw and SmackDown. So there's so many other people involved in this. You probably could get this to go to Raw or to Mania. I think about this time last year. I mean, they wanted Dom versus Ray at Mania, and they managed to stretch it by putting them on separate brands, and they kept them apart for a while. So, like, it can be done if that's what you want, and especially if this year's Mania truly is about, like, is this the end of the Bloodline? You know, depending on what Roman does, whether it's with Cody, whether it's with The Rock, whatever, like, with that, and if you have brother versus brother and Jimmy and Jay, you know, Solo could certainly have a big match. He's been protected so well. So it's a challenge in WWE's climate of having as much programming as they do. But I do think they are honestly going to make the attempt to try to get this brother versus brother 101 dragged out to Philadelphia. City of brotherly love, not so much for the Usos.
Oh, that'll be it. They're dragging us out to WrestleMania just for that. Just for that connection.
It's marketing, pal.
The most tremendous WrestleMania of all time. Not stupendous or whatever next word. I mean, I like the idea of brother versus brother. And just when you phrase like that, you're right. I wasn't super pumped about Jay and Cody as champions. I guess it just felt like, oh, this is what we had a few weeks ago. But you're right. It is a better situation overall. So it is a good thing. I guess I don't know. I don't know what I expected from this.
But again, now I ask you, aside from, let's just fast forward. Everybody can kind of have something to do for Survivor Series. Survivor Series with 5-on-5s, you know, there's something for everybody. But again, it's like, what do you do with Cody right now? Do you stall until we get back around to Rumble where Cody's got to win Rumble again? Like, it's like, where are we now? You know, where's Cody? I mean, he's not going to go backwards. He's not going to go challenge Gunther, is he? Like,
right.
So it's like, again, even though Gunther and the IC title are more important than it's ever been in 35 years, but like, that's the other thing. It's like, all right, well, what the hell's Cody do now?
Right.
Right.
No, that's a very big concern right now because, you know, you talk about others too. And, you know, the story hasn't finished yet. He hasn't, you know, gotten to where he's supposed to be or we projected him to go. And, you know, the whole thing of, you know, him and Roman Reigns, they had that face-to-face. So they're, again, hinting that isn't over with either. So it's curious to see where this goes and when.
My fantasy book for Cody between now and whatever he does at Mania is he kind of says such. He says, I need to get back to finishing the story. I've done all my, I've buried all my demons from the past. I need to get this world title. And then all of a sudden that music hits. And with my pen here, Randy Orton returns.
Ooh.
We keep hearing that Orton's been trained at the Performance Center. He's getting closer to coming back, maybe. He's insisted on coming back, even though his back maybe not the best. Randy Orton comes back and goes, oh, you've buried all of your past? Let's talk about the past.
Oh.
Oh, that'll be so
If you're
good.
gonna finish your story, you got to get through your first Mr. Miyagi, your first sensei.
Wow.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. And I think that's a good place to end it for today. I think that's I like the idea of Randy Orton coming back. That's a good one. So we're gonna wrap it up there. Everyone in the chat, let us know what you thought overall of the show. And before we go, as always, Jimmy, where can the world find you online, and what did you think of the show?
First of all, I thought the show was solid. You know, it had its moments that were really good, and other moments where you went, but still, overall, I thought it was a solid show. Heading into the next PLE, I almost called it a pay-per-view, but you know. And as far as working catch myself, obviously here on Monday nights after Raw, Wednesdays after Dynamite with Justin and Issa, and you know, I'll be back on the Reffing It Up podcast this week with my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, and RJ, you know, running the ship for us, and of course on all my social media accounts where I'm doing my ref and rants. Where, as I always like to say, from Monday to Wednesday, I don't critique to tear down, but to help tighten screws that I think need tighten.
Back to the grindstone, Jimmy doing his Reffing It Up podcast again. Justin, now that you're done being a fashion model, let us know where the world can find you online, what you thought of the show, and hit us with a little blue steel before we're done.
Show was good, and again, you know, Raw's 3 hours, but we don't talk lately. We haven't been talking about that. Used to be we talk about the 3 hours, but I mean it's long. It's 3 hours. 3 hours is long for anything, but I think they're trying their best to make the most, and I think that's where we get into some of the formatting things that we were kind of critiquing earlier. I think that's why we get some of it's awkward for the live audience. I think that's why. I think it's their way of getting the 3 hours to keep flowing. But whatever, hold the topic. But overall, pretty good Raw. You know, we're building a crown jewel. At Justin LaBar here on Mondays, as Jimmy said, on Wednesdays with he and Issa. Every Friday morning, myself, Dave LaGreca, Thunder Rosa spar with LaBar on Busted Open channel 156. I haven't said this to anything. I haven't said this to anybody yet, not even to YouTube privately.
Ooh.
But keep tuning in to me on Busted Open. There might be some more news coming down the pike of more LaBar from more Busted Open. So keep supporting that venture, because I hear there's been a seed planted.
Interesting. Now Justin LaBar, you're not the kind of person to make frivolous comments like that.
No.
So this has got to be something good. Everyone make sure to check that out. That's going to be spicy. So
no news coming this week. I'm just saying, start tuning into Fridays, because if you like the sound of LaBar on Busted Open, maybe that's for you.
Everyone check it out. I think that good stuff. Well, I don't know what's coming. I'm just assuming you don't say stuff like that unless you have something. Just you're not the guy that goes, I got something, and then nothing happens. So I think everyone should tune in. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media, doing nothing really, but chatting. Thank you guys, everyone who's in the chat with us, whether you're a lurker or whether you're live, hanging out with us. Dream Realm, Bernie, Dylan, Ricky, Baby Ice, Kayla, of Demons.
I'm sorry, Jack. Please, we have to let the live crowd get this. Please pull up your Twitter.
Oh no!
Please pull up your Twitter.
Oh no!
Dylan Matthews did it again. Pull up your Twitter, please.
Oh no!
Oh my goodness!
Let me see if I get.
Everybody go follow at Dylan. Everybody go follow at Dylan. Go follow at Dylan Matthews 91 if you're on the audio only feed, or if you are watching, go follow at Dylan Matthews 91. He has Jack Farmer doing the Tazawa tonight.
Doing the Tazawa. So tremendous. I'm not going to keep any of you any longer. You got to go follow Dylan. This is fantastic. Dylan, you did it again, pal. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to follow at Wrestling Inc. We'll be here tomorrow for after NXT show. We'll see you guys next time. Go check out Twitter at Dylan Matthews 91.
Doing the cha-cha